Welcome to our channel, where books come alive on screen. Get ready for 5-chapter wonders that inform, captivate, and spark your imagination. Join us in this literary journey where every chapter is an adventure. Gangland Showdown, Chicago Outfit vs. North Side Gang, by Just Stories. Chapter 1, Rise of the Rivals. In the bustling streets of 1920s Chicago, a city intoxicated by the promise of the jazz age, a different kind of music was playing to the discordant symphony of organized crime. It was a time of prohibition, when the sale and consumption of alcohol were banned, but demand for the forbidden brew soared. This period of turmoil and opportunity gave birth to two infamous factions, the Chicago Outfit and the North Side Gang. At the heart of this tale of rivalry and treachery stood two charismatic and cunning leaders, each with their vision of how to rule Chicago's underworld. Johnny Torrio, a shrewd strategist and the architect of the Chicago Outfit, saw opportunity in the black market liquor trade, while Dean O'Banion, a charismatic and ruthless figure, spearheaded the North Side Gang's bid for control. The clash of these titans was inevitable, as they vied for supremacy in the illicit world of bootlegging and gambling. Torrio's Chicago Outfit had its roots in the Italian-American criminal tradition, with connections to the notorious 5 Points Gang in New York. Torrio himself had relocated to Chicago from Brooklyn, bringing his criminal expertise to the Windy City. On the other side, O'Banion's North Side Gang was a motley crew of Irish-American criminals who were known for their flair, audacity, and willingness to confront their rivals head-on. O'Banion's florist shop on North State Street served as a front for his criminal operations, and it became a symbol of his gang's audacious approach to crime. As the outfit and the North Side Gang grew in power and influence, the streets of Chicago became a battleground. Violence escalated, and the city's residents found themselves caught in the crossfire. The climax of this rivalry was marked by bloodshed, double crosses, and a desire for control that knew no bounds. In this tumultuous era, alliances shifted like quicksand, and loyalty was a rare commodity. The rivalry between the Chicago Outfit and the North Side Gang reached its boiling point, culminating in events that would send shockwaves throughout the nation. The stage was set for a showdown that would forever stain the city's history, the infamous St. Valentine's Day Massacre. But beyond the violence and mayhem, this rivalry also gave birth to legends. It inspired countless stories, books, and movies that would romanticize the gangsters of Chicago's Roaring Twenties. It left an indelible mark on the city, shaping its identity and culture in ways that endure to this day. As we delve deeper into the annals of this brutal rivalry, we will uncover the motivations, strategies, and larger-than-life characters that defined this turbulent period. The rise of the rivals was just the beginning of a saga that would forever be etched in the history of organized crime in America's heartland. Chapter 2, Prohibition and the Bootlegging Empire. The Roaring Twenties in America were an age of wild contradictions, a time when jazz music filled the air, flapper dresses swirled, and the nation's spirits ran high. Yet, beneath the glittering facade of the jazz age, a shadowy world was taking shape, one driven by the insatiable thirst for something most Americans had taken for granted: alcohol. It was an era of prohibition, a period when the production and sale of alcoholic beverages were banned, but paradoxically, it was also an era when alcohol flowed freely, thanks to the rise of the bootlegging empire. As we venture into the heart of this chapter, we'll explore how prohibition ignited the spark that would ignite an all-out war for control of the illicit liquor trade. The Chicago Outfit, led by Johnny Torrio, and the North Side Gang, under Dean O'Banion, were at the forefront of this clandestine industry. The passage of the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution in 1920 heralded the beginning of Prohibition. This seemingly noble experiment aimed to curtail social problems associated with alcohol consumption, but instead gave rise to a thriving underground economy. The demand for alcohol remained unabated, and enterprising individuals seized the opportunity to meet this demand. Johnny Torrio recognized the immense profit potential of the bootlegging business. He began importing high-quality liquor from Canada, forming alliances with powerful criminal organizations along the way. The Chicago Outfit was well-positioned to dominate the city's lucrative liquor trade, and Torrio's strategic genius ensured that they did. Dean O'Banion and his North Side Gang, however, pursued a more daring approach. Their primary method of obtaining liquor was hijacking shipments from rival gangs. O'Banion's gang would often brazenly rob these trucks on the streets of Chicago, creating headlines and attracting attention. As the competition between the Chicago outfit and the North Side Gang intensified, violence became a daily occurrence. Shootouts and assassinations were commonplace as both factions fought for control of the alcohol distribution network, speakeasies, and gambling establishments. The culmination of this era was the establishment of an intricate network of secret bars known as speakeasies. These hidden watering holes became the epicenter of social life during Prohibition, where people gathered to enjoy illegal cocktails and dance the night away. Jazz music provided the soundtrack for this rebellious era, and figures like Al Capone, who would later become synonymous with organized crime in Chicago, rose to prominence as speakeasy proprietors and distributors of bootlegged alcohol. But as the bootlegging empire expanded, so did the chaos and violence. The streets of Chicago ran red with blood as gang warfare escalated. It was an era defined by the tension between law enforcement and the criminal underworld. Police and federal agents were often corrupt or outgunned, and they struggled to contain the illegal alcohol trade. In the midst of this chaos, the city's residents found themselves divided. Some supported Prohibition as a means to address societal issues, while others reveled in the rebellious spirit of the era, embracing the speakeasy culture. Regardless of one's stance, it was undeniable that Prohibition had transformed American society. As we close this chapter, the bootlegging empire stood as a testament to human ingenuity and determination. It was an era marked by defiance of the law, the rise of criminal empires, and a nation that danced on the edge of Prohibition, fueling an unforgettable era of American history. The clash between the Chicago outfit and the North Side Gang was just beginning, with the stakes higher than ever. Chapter 3: The St. Valentine's Day Massacre. February 14, 1929, dawned cold and crisp in Chicago. While couples exchanged tokens of affection on Valentine's Day, a sinister plot was unfolding in the heart of the city. It was a day that would go down in infamy as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, a brutal event that would shock the nation and forever alter the course of the Chicago outfit and the North Side Gang's deadly rivalry. As we delve into this chapter, we will uncover the circumstances leading up to this fateful day, the violent climax that would follow, and the far-reaching consequences it had on the criminal underworld. The Chicago outfit, led by Johnny Torrio and his right-hand man, Al Capone, had been engaged in a bitter struggle with Dean O'Banion's North Side Gang. O'Banion had been assassinated in 1924, but the animosity between the two factions persisted under the leadership of successors, George Bugs Morand for the North Side Gang and Al Capone for the Chicago outfit. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre was the culmination of this deep-seated hatred. On that fateful morning, 7 members of Morand's gang were lured to a garage at 2122 North Clark Street with the promise of a stolen shipment of whiskey. Unbeknownst to them, the garage had been taken over by Capone's men, who were disguised as police officers. As the unsuspecting gangsters entered the garage, they were lined up against the wall, and a hail of bullets was unleashed upon them. The gunmen made a swift exit, leaving behind a gruesome scene of carnage. When the authorities arrived, they found the bodies of Morand's men sprawled on the floor, their lives snuffed out in a matter of seconds. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre sent shockwaves through Chicago and the nation. The brutality and audacity of the attack stunned even hardened criminals. The use of police uniforms added an alarming dimension to the crime, eroding trust in law enforcement. Although George Bugs Morand himself narrowly escaped the massacre, the event marked a turning point in the rivalry between the Chicago outfit and the North Side Gang. The public outcry and pressure on law enforcement to bring the perpetrators to justice were immense. However, the Chicago outfit's involvement was shrouded in secrecy, and witnesses were too terrified to come forward. As investigations into the massacre stalled, public sentiment began to shift. Many began to view the gangsters as glamorous and daring figures, fueling the legend of Al Capone and his associates. Capone, who denied involvement in the massacre, became a notorious celebrity, synonymous with organized crime in America. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre also had a profound impact on law enforcement efforts. It exposed the corruption and ineffectiveness of the police and city officials, further eroding public trust in the institutions meant to maintain order. The incident paved the way for more robust federal efforts to combat organized crime, eventually leading to the downfall of Capone and his empire. In the wake of the massacre, the Chicago outfit would continue to consolidate its power, but the bloodshed served as a stark reminder of the price of that power. The city of Chicago and the nation were left grappling with the aftermath of this brutal chapter, forever etched in the annals of American criminal history. Chapter 4: The Gangster Chronicles. In the dark underbelly of 1920s Chicago, where jazz music filled the night air and speakeasies thrived, the legends of the Chicago outfit and the North Side Gang were solidifying. This chapter explores the lives and criminal exploits of key figures in these notorious organizations. From the cunning Johnny Torrio to the flamboyant Dean O'Banion, this era produced larger-than-life characters who captured the public's imagination and forever left their mark on the history of organized crime. As we delve into the Gangster Chronicles, we'll witness the rise of these crime lords, their rivalries and alliances, and the extraordinary events that defined their criminal careers. Johnny Torrio, the strategic mastermind. Johnny Torrio, often called the Fox for his cunning nature, was the architect of the Chicago outfit's success. He was a strategic thinker, meticulously planning every move and orchestrating complex criminal enterprises. Torrio's connections with criminal organizations, including the notorious 5 Points Gang in New York, were instrumental in the outfit's rise to power. Despite being shot multiple times in an assassination attempt, Torrio survived and decided to retire, paving the way for a young and ruthless protege, Al Capone, to take the reins. Dean O'Banion, the florist and the gangster. Dean O'Banion, in stark contrast to Torrio's calculated approach, was a flamboyant and audacious gangster. His cover as a florist on North State Street concealed a thriving criminal operation. O'Banion's North Side Gang was known for hijacking liquor shipments, often brazenly robbing rival gangs on Chicago's streets. His rivalry with Torrio and later with Capone would lead to bloodshed, including the murder of Torrio's ally, Dean O'Banion. Al Capone, Scarface takes charge. With Johnny Torrio's retirement, Al Capone assumed leadership of the Chicago outfit. Scarred by a razor attack in his youth, Capone earned the nickname Scarface and a reputation for brutality. Under his command, the outfit continued to flourish. Capone's control extended to speakeasies, gambling establishments, and even city officials. He became a symbol of the Prohibition-era's excesses and the embodiment of a gangster who seemingly operated above the law. The lives of these gangsters were characterized by rapid ascents to power, brutal conflicts, and, in some cases, violent ends. Johnny Torrio would eventually retire to Florida, while Dean O'Banion met his demise in a hail of bullets. Al Capone, perhaps the most notorious of them all, would face legal troubles, culminating in his imprisonment for tax evasion. Their stories, along with those of their associates and rivals, are a testament to the allure and danger of the criminal underworld in 1920s Chicago. As the jazz age roared on, these gangsters left an indelible mark on the city's history and culture. The Gangster Chronicles continue to captivate us, serving as a reminder of a bygone era when crime lords ruled the streets and legends were born in the shadows. Chapter 5: End of an Era. As the 1920s rolled into the 1930s, the raucous party of the jazz age was coming to an end. In the realm of organized crime in Chicago, the winds of change were blowing, and the once mighty empires of the Chicago outfit and the North Side Gang were beginning to crumble. In this final chapter, we will explore the decline of these notorious organizations, the impact of law enforcement efforts, and the lasting legacy of their fierce rivalry on the city of Chicago. The Roaring Twenties had witnessed a thrilling dance of criminal enterprise, but as the decade drew to a close, the music was about to stop. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, a gruesome event that shocked the nation, had marked a turning point. Public outrage and growing pressure on law enforcement led to intensified efforts to dismantle organized crime in Chicago. The authorities were determined to put an end to the gang violence that had plagued the city for years. In 1931, the feds finally caught up with Al Capone. Though not for his most heinous crimes, they managed to secure a conviction on charges of tax evasion. Capone was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison, effectively removing him from the criminal landscape he had dominated for so long. Meanwhile, the North Side Gang had also suffered significant losses. Dean O'Banion's death had weakened the gang, and the St. Valentine's Day Massacre had further eroded its power. By the mid-1930s, George "Bugs" Moran, O'Banion's successor, had lost much of his influence, and the gang had fragmented. With the imprisonment of Al Capone, the Chicago outfit faced a leadership vacuum. However, it adapted and continued its criminal activities under new leadership. Capone's era of glamorous crime had ended, but the outfit's influence would persist for decades. As for the North Side Gang, it had faded into obscurity. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre and internal conflicts had fractured the gang beyond repair. The days of flamboyant gangsters like Dean O'Banion and George "Bugs" Moran were over, and they became relics of a bygone era. The end of Prohibition in 1933 further signaled the end of an era. With the repeal of the 18th Amendment, the lucrative bootlegging trade became a thing of the past, and the criminal empires that had thrived on it were forced to adapt or fade away. The 1930s brought new challenges, including the rise of the federal law enforcement agency known as the FBI, led by J. Edgar Hoover. The FBI's increased focus on organized crime and its relentless pursuit of gangsters would ultimately contribute to the downfall of many criminal organizations across the United States. As we close this chapter and reflect on the turbulent years of the Chicago outfit versus the North Side Gang, we see a city forever changed by the violence and intrigue of the Prohibition era. Chicago's criminal past is a dark chapter in its history, but it also stands as a testament to the resilience of a city that emerged from the chaos and moved towards a more lawful and orderly future. The era of gangland showdowns had ended, but the stories of the Roaring Twenties and the rise and fall of criminal empires would continue to captivate generations to come. Thank you for diving into the world of words with us. If you had a blast exploring this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share the bookish love with your friends, and make sure to subscribe for more amazing 5-chapter adventures.